Here we go, it's last week of the auction, America's favorite top 10 list of auction results from around the globe, as hand-selected by me, Josh Levine, your host and guide to the world of auctions. And this week's got it all. Amazing auction results, fun facts, and so much more. Why? Because I believe there's nothing more interesting than the auction world. You got crazy psychology, trivia, you get to learn all about history through stuff, you got different picker personalities, your classic hoarders, I mean every walk of life all rolled into one, or in this case, a bunch of auction events. I believe every estate sale and auction could be its own reality show. If you feel the same way, subscribe below, leave a comment or two, and please, as always, share your ideas. I have all the links down below. Everything I discuss, these great auction houses, and all my social media and contact information. So, let's just get to it. This all happened last week at the auction. Coming in at number 10 in our countdown, how about an Austrian cold-painted bronze rooster, unassuming and 3 inches tall, but it hammered for $275 at DuMouchelles in Detroit. The reason I feature metal chicken is because you have to take notice of these little figures and things around the estates. The Austrians made several miniatures back in the day, typically depicting animals and people, in the early 20th century, and they're quite desirable today. This was most likely $5 at a garage sale if someone didn't notice, made in Austria. I am big into the overlooked or only a select few people know mode this week with my finds. After all, it's all about your education and mine. I learn something new every week as well. I knew this one though, number 9, iron wall font. I don't know why I'm doing the professional wrestler metal voice. But anyway, this rusty hunk brought $475 at Abells in LA. Some call them a fountain, etc., but architectural elements are one of those subculture in the know things. This will be repurposed and might bring $1,000 or more after restoration. But again, most of us pass this piece by at an estate sale without giving it a second glance. And the nuggets keep coming. Number 8 is the Nakamichi 700 ZXL computing cassette deck that sold for $800 at Leland Little. If you're a fan of the show, I beat the audiophile drum. There is money in vintage electronics. Even old cassette decks? Yeah, you just saw it. If you don't know, look it up. We used to use 2 rules pre-Google, and they still work today, so get ready, write these down. Number 1, the heavy rule. If it's ghastly heavy, it's generally worth money. This works for like your tube amps, record players, speakers, and so on. It meant they were originally very expensive to make, had massive transformers and the like, and were high-end in their day, and most likely the ones that retained their value or became vintage collectible. The next rule is one of my favorite. It's called never heard of it. This one meant if you never heard of it, it wasn't a household name, and it meant because it was super expensive and you didn't know anyone that could afford it and never heard of it, therefore. So I still can hear the snarky way somebody said that to me. It was a piece of jewelry, and I said I had never heard of the brand, and the person said to me, "You don't know anyone that can afford it." And they were right. So I got stories, but I got to move on. Number 7, signed Clark ABCG ice cream tray that sold for $1,200 at Woody's in Douglas, Kansas. That's a great price these days for American Brilliant cut glass. By the way, if you didn't know, that's what the ABCG stood for, and it's a great listing abbreviation or acronym to collectors, and when they're searching for things, they use these keywords, and it's also a way to tell the collectors you know what you're talking about. Maybe I should do a video on acronyms because I'm telling you they're money, using the proper acronyms in your listings, etc. Anyway, if you ever want to know anything about antique glass prices and values, what to look for, follow Woody's auction. I swear they are the bravest auction house in the land too, with all the glass they sell at auction. Must have great insurance. Anyway, number 6 is a Neurenberger stamped bow with a sterling mount that sold for $1,600 at Clars in Oakland. This might be my most educational episode yet, and I'm only at number 6. I'll have nothing to talk about next week. I don't know. Anyway, who am I kidding? Why bows? Not Bose speakers, violin bows. I always look for the signature or maker's mark on a bow, especially when I'm looking at an old violin. You may or may not have heard, but the bows can be worth more money than the violin they are with. Say it was a hand-me-down or a replacement bow or an upgrade from years ago, they were separate purchase and by separate makers back in the day. And I have found $1,000 bows with $50 violins. It's a fact. Number 5. This early Edison 4-blade bipolar electric fan crushed it. $4,250 at Donnelly's auction in Union, Illinois. I love that it's bipolar. I can completely relate to this fan. You know, before Atari and Intellivision, my favorite video game was sticking pencils and fingers into things like this. Anyway, they don't make toys like they used to. Seriously now, I'm just kidding. Don't stick your finger in fans. We had these all over the house because my dad even knew back then vintage brass blade fans would be quite desirable, and they even were at that point. And what you're looking for are these old Pancake motors and the like. They can be the big buck ones. Even a good one, you know, a fairly common can be $200-300, but these Pancake motors, look the models up. You'll know. Anyway, this takes us in a new direction. Number 4, sweet dreams are made of this. This is Marilyn Manson's untitled watercolor that hammered for $5,000 at Regu in Lambertville, New Jersey. It was approximately 30 by 22 and be excellent for a young child's room. Just kidding. But I wanted you to follow the trend here. Several well-known musicians and actors take up art, even a few presidents and a dictator or two. Anyway, some actually go on to fetch solid auction records and be good investments down the road. I want to look 10 to 15 years from now and see what a Manson is selling for. Because just for example, Paul Stanley of Kiss and Jim Carrey, they have works that have shown upside at auction already. All right, look who's back at number 3. Marvel Comics X-Men #1 that brought $8,000. Why, it's my buddy Matthew Bullock Auctioneers in Ottawa, Illinois. And I mean, yes, the Matt Bullock himself. You know, the CAI grad and amazing dad. He's got an awesome auction season on tap, and I'm sure he's going to have more hits coming up. And speaking of repeat offenders, every week it seems, One Great Deal Auctions in Meridian, Idaho slides in at number 2 with his 1889 Carson City Morgan silver dollar. It sold for $13,000. A silver dollar for $13,000. Well, it was a rare key date. There were only 350,000 of these ever produced at the Carson City Mint, and it was AU58, or almost uncirculated. That's almost unheard of. You want more on stuff like that? Watch my Pocket Change, the History of American Coin video. But enough about me. So what's at number 1? Well, it's the 1971, that's my birth year, Chevy Nova Yenko clone that crushed it. $34,000 at Leland Little. A great build with a new 454 big block, your classic Holley 780 carb, TCI 3-speed automatic transmission, and a 342 geared rear. I have no idea what any of that means. But I know it's cool looking, I'd like to have it, and someone gave it a lot of love and spent buku on parts. But that's the list, and now you know what happened last week at the auction. There's no rapid recap this week, as I rambled on way too much, but a few of you viewers said you want it back after I skipped it last week. So I'm going to take a poll. So there's going to be a button up here, one of the up top, a little eye thingy. Click it and answer the poll question if you want it or not. Hey, you tell me, and speaking of which, it's time for this week's viewer email. This week's question comes from, I kid you not, Bilbo Baggins, and I'm guessing that's not his real name, but I'm game. So Bilbo asked me, do you want some fries with your shake shake booty? Of course I do, that's the answer. And thank you, Bilbo, because that was the only question I got this week. And thanks again, everyone, for watching. Seriously, email me some real questions, josh@joshlevinespeaks.com or whatever. I'm game either way. And remember, if you enjoy the show, subscribe below, give me a thumbs up, leave a comment. That way I know what you like and want more of. I truly hope you enjoyed today's episode, and don't forget to check out all the auction houses I talked about this week. They're all in the links below. They're right down there. Until next week, or last week at the auction.